Today's topic is a doozy. How do you know what to work on in practice? Like some other topics, there's an it depends answer, but I'm going to give you a handful of scenarios to hopefully give you something to think about or take back to your practice. The one thing I think that you don't want to be is the person that every single video you post on the gram looks exactly the same. Whether it's just constant drawing the gun and doing mag changes over and over again. Maybe the shirt's different. Maybe the scenario is a little bit different, but more or less you can't tell one video from the next. That's not somebody you'd want to be. Or you're training on the range and every time it's more or less the exact same thing. The target setups look so similar. The distances, the difficulties, you more or less can't tell the difference. Or a simple one that people don't understand. Every time I post a video, let's say I'm just doing build drills. So I just draw the gun and it's let's see how fast I can shoot 6 shots and I show you the timer. It's like, oh, hell yeah, brother. And then that's just more or less all I'd fixate on. That wouldn't be good for me because I'd probably get really good at drawing the gun fast or maybe keeping my firing hand relaxed to do fast splits up close. But then when it targets at 25 yards or a partial target or I'm transitioning between targets, obviously I'd be neglecting areas of my game. So we want to be a well-rounded shooter. One thing I did for quite a while, I mean, honestly, many years, was just complete the sentence, I really suck or struggle at. Whatever I said, that would just make its way into my practice. The one probably exception to that is one-handed shooting. It is something you should be good at, but it's tough to tell to somebody you should be national champion level at that just because there's so many other skills that you use more often. So for the example of one-handed shooting, if I saw a match, so that'll be the first scenario. If there's a match coming up that I really want to do well at and I look, there's going to be a bunch of one-handed shooting at, you have an idea at the distance or you just know the skill's going to be tested, then I would work on that 4, 6 practice sessions out, something like that before the match. Maybe I just work on it 100 rounds every time I go to the range or work on it in dry fire just because it's something coming up and hey, I'm not particularly good at that. Another example, you look at the match, man, this is partial city. Everything looks like it either has a penalty target or it's partialed up. You know they're all going to be far, then yeah, I would absolutely add some farther distance training into my practice, especially if I wasn't comfortable with that or to know where my gun's going to hit at that kind of distance, something like that. I would caution you against drawing too many conclusions. Or commonly, people, this isn't even one person, a lot of people will look at the diagrams for matches, especially nationals, for USPSA nationals, and draw conclusions. They think the match is going to be, it looks pretty hosey, it's going to be an easy match. Then you get there and the stages look nothing like the diagram. You've been practicing for very close targets. The next thing you know, everything's at 15 yards or farther, or maybe it's the reverse. There's a bunch of partials. This looks really, really tough. I'm going to practice with really distance targets. Then you get to the match and everything, there's not a single target past 7 yards. Either one of those scenarios could come true. So if you're a practical shooter person, just looking to see what types of things are coming up, a challenge or maybe a classifier that you want to work on or work elements of that you're training, or unloaded starts. That's another one. There's 3 unloaded starts this match. I want to make sure I'm just competent at that. I'm not going to devote my whole training to that, but I just want to be good at that. So anyway, that's important to know. Same thing along those lines as a qualification, something like that. If you carry a gun for work, you have a department or work, whatever, a qualification you have to pass, knowing what that test is and training specifically those elements, that's just a no-brainer if you want to do well. So anyway, that's smart just to identify specific areas you know you're going to get tested on to work those into your live fire and dry fire. Like I said, it's important to not practice the same thing all the time. So if it's just general, I don't have a specific big match coming up or a specific qualification or goal coming up, I just rotate my practice through a little bit of everything. So there'll be some times where I do like the standard practice setup, which would be an L-Pres, 3 targets, roughly a yard apart. I'll shoot them at 7 yards away, 10 yards away. Maybe I'll do middle, left, right, change the order. Maybe I'll designate one of the targets, so shoot the left target, middle target, left target, far right target, then left target, something like that. Do head, body, reload, body, head, body, going across in a crisscross pattern. That's fun to do with a carbine or a pistol. So anyway, just a standard setup like that. Do a bunch of different things. Maybe I have a day where there's a bunch of target transitions, or I'm going to be moving my feet the whole time I shoot, whatever. I just like to change the theme from practice session to session, just so I'm trying to work on all the elements of my shooting and not just get locked into, like my original example, every day I go to the range, it's just a bill drill. Maybe it's at 5 yards, maybe it's at 10 yards. Maybe if I'm really adventurous that day, it's at 10 yards. But it's more or less the same drill or the same thing being tested over and over again. Just not a good thing for your shooting if your goal is to be well-rounded and good at all the tests that you're likely to see. So anyway, I don't think you necessarily need a gym plan. So Mondays, gun handling day, Tuesdays, target transition day, Wednesdays, movement day, whatever. But I think it's important to just rotate through the different skills that you want to work on. Maybe you make a list to make sure you're not leaving anything out. And then just keep changing your setup so you're constantly working on all the different areas of shooting, not just neglecting something that you are either overly good or bad at. Because stuff that you are strong at, it's still good to do that once in a while just to continue to be good at that or working those elements in. It doesn't always have to be just stuff you're terrible at. But again, I think you should be a well-rounded shooter. So good at whatever you see, you're able to do that. And if you've worked on that stuff in training, you'll gain the awareness of that's something that I struggle with. I'm going to be very, very careful and use a refined aiming scheme or be more careful to make sure I do like dot press. So reactive shooting on the target where I see my sight, come down, stop on the target, I press the trigger, it lifts, I wait until I see my sight a second time, then I confirm it before I press the trigger. So I can add really high accountability because in my training, I know that's been a problem. So training all the different areas adds in awareness to know the things that you're good at and the things you're not good at because you've been practicing them. So anyway, hopefully that's helpful. Gives you some things that take back to your training or practice. You have any questions, drop them for me below.